Subscription services are like little vampires that just eat away at your wallet. $10 here, $15 there. And the worst part is that every year they get progressively worse, each one becoming more and more compartmentalized. For example, in the past, you would buy cable, and cable would offer you CBS, ABC, a bunch of different types of programs. And streaming came along to make it be so that you didn't have to pay for unnecessary channels you didn't use for. That's what Netflix stood for. When Disney Plus happened, that's what it stood for. But in today's day and age, unfortunately, it's becoming like cable all over again. And which is kind of putting Americans in a position where do they even want to keep paying for it? Or at least the ones they don't really use. And piracy is on the rise again because of this. Now, that's not to say it's all bad news, but just thinking about it the other day, how much is each subscription? Anywhere from $10 to $15 per month? How many does the average American have? Right? We're going to touch all those topics and see if you were to actually be investing all that money instead of having all these streaming services, if you would have come out on top, or if the little bit of enjoyment you had watching a few movies a month was worth it. So let's jump in. According to reviews.org, the average American spends about $42 or so on streaming services and subscriptions every month in 2024, but that is actually down about 23% from 2023, where the average American would spend about $55 a month. But the same report shows that Americans have about 2 streaming services. Now, I'm talking to people that are within the finance niche, so I'm imagining that people that are watching this video will have a higher, more expendable income and have anywhere from 3, maybe 4 streaming services or subscriptions that they subscribe to, which that might sound like a lot, just me speaking it and saying the average is 2, but easily Netflix is 1, Disney Plus is 1. If you have any sort of food delivery app, that's a 3rd one. And if you have Hulu, that's a 4th one. And then if you add in Paramount Plus and Peacock and 6, 7, it becomes a bunch. So I'm not going to go with the super high end, but since, like I said, we're all people with more disposable income for these kinds of things, we're looking into finance, I'm going to say that we're going to round it out at about 4. Hopefully that's a good estimate. I personally have about 4 as well. So we're going to use that number 4. If 2 is about $42, 4 is going to be about $84. We'll just round it off at $80. And that will be used for our calculations in this video. So that's going to be our average, $80. But Netflix itself has been around forever at about $15 a month since the late 2000s, or $180 a year. So over 18 years, you would have spent about $3,200. And it's not nothing, but it's not life-changing amount of money either. But here's the part that stings. If you would have instead invested that money month by month into the S&P 500, you would be looking at about $10,000 that you would have today. And for doing nothing other than just, instead of paying for Netflix, you just threw it into the S&P 500. So that stings a little bit, but also $10,000 is not a life-changing amount of money. We're talking about $15 a month. So let's jump over to the next streaming service. This next streaming service is a little different because Disney Plus has not been around as long as you would like to think or remember. Disney Plus launched in 2019, and ever since then, it launched at $6.99, $84 a year. I think it's gone up a little bit since then, but we're just going to keep it consistent there. So over 5 years, saying that $7 price to be conservative with it, you've dropped about $420 into Disney Plus streaming if you got it since its inception. And that would be closer to like $600 today. So at the end of the day, it wouldn't have been life-changing at all. Like, I think really like $420 versus $600, it's a $180 difference over 5 years. That's not really making or breaking the bank. But if you actually use the service, it could be worth it. If you don't use it though, or use it once or twice a month, I made another video, you could probably see it here, where I talk about this. And you might actually even make a better return if instead of spending money on this subscription service, you just spent those money on movie tickets whenever you go to watch movies, or you rent a movie for the day. Really important right now. This is so important that if you are so far enjoying this video, you like this channel or similar content like it, check out my other videos, like this video, and hit that subscribe button because it helps out this channel so much, a bunch. But now Hulu, that's been around since 2007 at about $8 a month. I mean, I would adjust all these for like how much their prices have inflated over time, but that'd be very complicated, and we just want to get a broad idea. So $8 a month over time, that's nearly about $2,000 that you paid to Hulu, which if you were to have invested that consistently into the S&P 500, that would be about another $5,000 today. Now, the craziest thing about this is that Disney actually does own Hulu as well as Disney Plus. So if you had Disney Plus and Hulu, it doesn't matter. You're still paying Mickey Mouse. He's pocketing all your money at the end of the day, whether you're watching a fancy Disney movie or anime on Hulu. It's all Disney, unfortunately. Now, here on the video, I was thinking about going over more movie subscriptions, right? Shows, entertainment, content like that. But a big one that stood out to me was music streaming, like Spotify. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you maybe have YouTube Premium. I do. And that's other places that we spend our money at, that are subscription services that we don't particularly need. Is it worth the cost though? I think in some cases it is, but in most cases it's not. Now, Spotify, for example, is about $10 a month since 2011. So over the course of that many years, you'd be looking at about $1,600 total. But if you invested it, it would be about $4,000 today. But something that would be ironic is if Spotify Wrapped, instead of sending you what songs you listened to the most during this past year, they send you, hey, this is how much compound interest you missed out on by having our service. Which of course they would never do, because why would they do that? Whatever. That's the pattern. Small payments, huge opportunity cost, and Dash Pass really drives this home, no pun intended. So Dash Pass itself, you paid $10 a month to avoid having to put on pants to go and pick up the food yourself for 5 years of that. Let's say that would have been about $600 that you would have spent. If you would have invested that, you'd be looking somewhere from $750 to $800. So about a $200 difference in your money that you would have had. Not to mention you would have still had the $600 you spent. But that's not that bad. That's not great. But this is one where I think is really not worth it, because DoorDash implemented all their safety protocols. You know, you were probably just trading your own hard-earned cash for someone else to bring you food and eat it on the way to your house. Like, that's just the reality of it in the beginning. Nowadays, DoorDash is way more strict with all that, but still, I think it's a waste of money. You could just go get the food yourself. And not to mention, that's $10 a subscription, but every time you order food, there are so many fees. And then if you tip the driver, that's more money that's leaving you going somewhere else. So more of the story is that yes, subscriptions may seem harmless, but the opportunity cost is brutal. And our recap of all the money we just mentioned, let's go through it. So adding up our totals of how much we have invested into these subscription streaming services, we have $3,200 from Netflix. We got another $600 from Disney Plus. We got another $2,000 from Hulu. And we got another $1,600 from Spotify. And to round it off, we got about $600 from Dash Pass. That's just the 5 most likely subscription services that you and I maybe have. But that comes out to a grand total of $8,000 that you've invested in subscription streaming services, etc. Which over the course of that many years, I feel like isn't that bad. Honestly, you know, just being real, that's not that bad for entertainment, and except for DoorDash. I can't justify DoorDash for myself. I don't feel like it's crazy, but the difference in how much you would have made had you invested that same amount into the S&P 500 is huge. Actually, we're going through it right now. As we said, about $8,000 you have invested into your subscription streaming services over the last 15 years. Now, if instead you would have put that into the S&P 500, today you would have had about $20,400, which, I mean, again, depending on your own situation, it might not be life-changing. But ask yourself, if you had an extra $20,000 in the bank right now, how much would that open up your freedom, your liberty, having just a little extra cushion there? It might be a lot of cushion for someone else. It might be a little bit for another person. Depends on your own situation. Now, I'm no financial advisor, financial expert, but going through these numbers, I think that if you can make the effort to cancel some of these subscriptions you don't really use actually, and instead invest it and put more aside to invest over time, you're going to see the benefits of a lot of growth. You're going to see the fruits of it and enjoy it, because all that money is yours and yours to keep, instead of going to all these big old franchises, corporations, blah, 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 blah. So the real subscription that you want is not streaming. It's compounding interest. It costs nothing. It doesn't cancel after one season, and it pays out forever. But above that subscription service, what you want is your salvation from Jesus Christ himself, the man, the myth, the legend. Well, not myth. It's just a saying, but you know. Or if you want to fund another Marvel spinoff that no one asked for, at least you'll have something entertaining to watch while your portfolio stays broke. But whatever. See you on the next video, or check out these other videos. I'm sure you guys will like it too. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe, hit the like button. Bye, everyone.